You know, this thing is an electrical nightmare. I got relays bypassed, I got wires cut, I got rat nests, I got no spark. I, I don't know who or what did what to this frickin' thing. Christ. So I'm working on this Ferris zero turn for a customer of mine. I've been holding on to it for a long time. The guy's not in a hurry for it, so it's a good project to get done over winter. I got some time, so I got to bang it out. I did have to put a wheel motor in this one here, and that was pretty straightforward. But when I got this thing was not it was not running, and it was not operating. I did put a battery in it, and it would not turn over. Now, if you look, I got the controls all whacked out. I got the cover off the engine, this thing, because this was an electrical nightmare. This thing was driving me crazy. And there was a lot of bullshit that was done on this engine to bypass everything. You know, like the relays were jumped out, the safety switches were jumped out, which, you know, I do the safety switches too, but when I saw the relays jumped out, and I saw a bunch of wires cut and spliced together, I knew there was some goofy shit going on with this one. So in any case, I finally did a bunch of troubleshooting. I was able to get the engine turnover no problem, but I was getting no spark to the engine. And you can see here, I got the coils out with the spark plugs, coil out with the spark plug. And that's because what I'm doing is when I turn it over, I got the spark plug, you know, just hanging here, but it's enough to ground here so I can see if I'm getting spark out of this thing. So the interesting thing was the wiring within the coils. So initially, when both coils, so the bottom part of the coil, when these were grounded together, there would be no spark. I was getting nothing. However, if I unplugged one of these, I would get spark to both of them. But they couldn't be wired together, and I was like, what the hell's going on? So I just assumed I had a bad coil. So I took 2 used coils that I had laying around, and I threw them in this thing. And I had no change whatsoever. Unplug one, boom, same thing. I was getting that the coil was working fine, but when these two are wired together, it wasn't working. So I was like really stumped. And now let's go to the bench and I'll show you what I found out. So this was the wire that was going to both ignition coils on the zero turn. So this went to the first coil, the left coil, this went to the right coil, and this plugged in. And when I first saw it, I didn't think anything of it. I did know that this was not factory, and I was like, oh, look, you know, the guy had crimped these on, okay, whatever. You know, and I just figured that he had to redo the wiring because a mouse chewed through it or whatever. I just didn't think anything of it. So in any case, I decided to start looking online, and I tested. I was testing the impedance between these two and the resistance, and I was like, okay, there's no break in the wire, so that's good. But then I was looking online, and sure enough, online, you know, it calls for a certain Briggs and Stratton wire assembly for the ignition coil, and this is it. See the Briggs and Stratton part number? Wire assembly. I was like, you know what, let me just order the wire assembly, because I wonder if there's like resistors or something in this thing preventing it from going. And sure enough, when I got the wire assembly, look at this. So this here, as you can see, there's a resistor there and a resistor there. So I bet dollars to donuts when I plug this puppy in, it's gonna short itself to here. So when it's turning, it's not going to short itself to ground like it was. It's just going to go right to here, and then that way these coils aren't fighting one another. I am pretty sure that's going to be it. So I'm going to get my voltmeter, and we're going to show the difference between these two wires. All right. I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier, but you know, it makes perfect sense. All right. I hope I got the camera set up so you can see everything. In any case, what I am going to do too is tell you the troubleshooting I did. So this is the impedance check, and this is just to see if we have connection between. So if we have a good loop connection, it's going to beep. So, you know, that was the first thing I was checking. I was like, all right, let me make sure there's no break in the connection. And we're good. Sorry. All right. We're good. And I was like, well, just for shits and giggles, okay. We're good. So I was like, okay, we got good connection here. But when you go to resistance, the resistance should be very minimal. And you got 0.1 ohms of resistance. 0.2 ohms of resistance. Okay, so you got minimal resistance here. Now, when you go to this wire assembly, the Briggs & Stratton wire assembly, we'll go to impedance. When I touch these two together, you notice they're not beeping. It's saying, hey, they're not connected. Go to this one. Nothing. I'm showing ohms, but I'm not showing impedance here. So now let's check the ohms between these here. So remember I had 0.1 between those two. And holy. And I got 450 kilo ohms. So I got a lot different resistance between the coils. So I'm going to throw this one on, and I'm pretty sure these resistors are going to take care of those coils fighting. So I think what happened in this case, the guy or somebody bought this thing and was working on it, or they fucked something up and they started looking at the electrical system, and then they gave up, and then I got it. So now I'm... So, yeah, more troubles. So I understand why the guy jumped out all these relays and fucked with the wires, because they trace everything back to one of the safety switches. I mean, this safety switch controls your emergency brake. And so the emergency brake, which is over here, you see that lever? You see how it moves? What it does is it pushes this button in. Well, the safety switch has died. Okay, it's just not making contact. So what I did is I jumped it out. So you see how I did this? So the only thing it does, all this does is it touches two metal together and says, hey, we're good. You can start me, you know. Or it's the opposite, it pushes two apart from one another. So what I did is I jumped these out together. So that way it says, hey, I'm making a good connection. And sure enough, after I did that, she wants to turn over. So that's cool that we figured that out, but now we got to change this relay. Okay, I put the new wire harness, if you will, from this coil to this coil. I just put that new one in. This is just a temporary connection, but let's see if we get spark now. Here we go. So I got it on the charger because it was spinning real slow, and I noticed when I'm turning this thing over, it wants to leap forward. So I just, as you saw, we got spark now. So I'm gonna try to fire this fucking thing. And the only thing though is I got the emergency brake rigged right now. So I'm gonna try and control this while I start the engine, so I don't send this flying into Frankie's pen. So it's probably a dumb idea, but we're gonna try it. Give it a hair of ether. See if it wants to pop or run or something. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, the carb was definitely dirty. Had to take it apart. This is a nice carburetor. It's a dual port carburetor. So you got your two ports there. This is a nice one, but we're gonna clean this one up and then reinstall it. But we got good spark. Just gotta get the fuel going.